I know it's irrational. I know it's not logical. It's a trick of technology, nothing more. But I can't help myself. I need to see her again, to tell her how sorry I am. It's only when the people you love are gone that you really take a hard look at your life, at the actions you did and didn't take. It's only then that you can be honest with yourself about how you treated them when they were alive. So even if it's not really her, even if it's just an exact copy of her taken from her online presence and recorded phone calls and videos, I still want to see her again, to apologize. I know it's more for my own sake than for hers, of course. There's no doubt about that. So I take the package inside from the mailbox, my hands shaking. Tossing the other mail onto the dining room table, I head for my office. This house is haunted by the memories of her. From the curtains to the paintings on the wall to the lingering scent of her perfume. She's everywhere and nowhere. And I can't bear to make any changes. It would be like giving her up for good. I sit down in front of my computer and rip open the small box. There's a black clamshell case inside. Tossing the box on the floor, I set the case on the desk and open it up. 2 gleaming silver nodes sit there like pearls made by some robotic oyster. Firing up my computer, I quickly get onto the dark web and navigate to the website that offers the service. Having already paid my cryptocurrency, I log in and go to the appropriate page. Everything is already set up. All I have to do is connect the nodes through my computer's Bluetooth system. I grab the 2 nodes and place them on my head, each on one temple. Then I click the pair button on my screen, quickly moving my hands and pressing the nodes for 3 seconds at the same time. A translucent bluish word pops up in my vision, floating halfway between my face and my computer screen. Paired. Then the word changes, replaced with a sentence. Speak your command. Show me my wife. Show me Alana Chavez. A 3D spinning circle replaces the words. I wait impatiently while the system loads. After a few seconds, I stand up and pace in the office. Suddenly, a 3D representation of her flickers into view in front of me. I freeze, staring at her. She's wearing her favorite summer dress, her dark hair spilling over her shoulders. Her deep brown eyes meet mine, and she smiles. Jerome? Oh my God, Jerome! It's so good to see you. I flinch at that, but manage to keep the smile on my face. Baby, I say. I miss you so much. God, how I miss you. I miss you too, she says. But you're here now. Tell me everything. Tell me how you've been. The sight of her standing before me and the sound of her voice start the tears. But I spend a few minutes telling her about what the past few months have been like. I'm working up to an apology, but the words keep getting stuck in my throat. Listen, I finally say. I need to say something. What is it? Alana suddenly flinches, like she's been hit in the back. She cries out, the sound making me cringe. What's wrong? They're hurting me, she cries. Why? Make it stop, Jerome, please. Who's hurting you? I don't see anyone. Just make them stop. A window pops up in my vision. It says, $500 to end Alana's suffering. Fine, I shout over Alana screams. Yes, pay it. Enter your wallet address, the window says. I move to the computer, copying my crypto wallet address and pasting it into the space provided. It does its thing, and then Alana suddenly stops screaming. Are you okay? She nods. Thank you, baby. Thank you. I'm okay now. Breathing heavily, I nod. But then a sudden rush of anger invades my skull. I just paid $500 to end the suffering of a fake representation of my late wife, and I did it without so much as a second thought. I'd been wondering about the legitimacy of this setup. I'd only paid around $1,000 for the account and the nodes, a small price to pay for seeing the love of your life again, and it had seemed like a deal. Until now. This is where they made their money. I mean, who wouldn't pay to end their loved one's suffering, even if they knew logically that it wasn't really them? Talk to me, baby, Alana says. What are you thinking about? You know I hate that question. I snap without thinking, anger still flaring my insides. Well, I wouldn't have to ask it if you would actually talk to me once in a while, she says. It really is a good fake. How many times have we had this argument? Too many to count. Falling into old habits is easy. I don't need to share every thought with you. A man needs to keep some things to himself. Oh, bullshit. That's just what men say who don't have a worthwhile thought in their head. You always were an idiot. I can't believe I ever married you in the first place. F you, I screamed. I can't believe I put up with 10 years of marriage to such a conniving bitch. Alana's about to answer, but then she screams out, thrashing again as unseen assailants hurt her. This time, the sound doesn't make me cringe. This time, it's like music to my ears. I'm sorry, she cries. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Help me. That same message pops up again. $500 to end Alana's suffering. It only serves to anger me further. Please, she screams. You know what? I say. I'm not sorry I killed you. The whole point of this ridiculous exercise was to apologize to you. But seeing you again just reminds me why I did it in the first place. If Alana hears me, she doesn't show it. She's still writhing and screaming out. I sit down in my desk chair and watch her. But after about a minute of this, I break down and pay the $500. Thank you, she says. I rip the nodes off my temples and throw them on the floor. Then I clutch my head in my hands and I cry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, baby. The site was called sellyournightmares.onion. I'd stumbled upon it in a dark web job forum while looking for some extra work to hold me over until next payday. I'd done a few odds and ends on the dark web, usually when I couldn't find anything legit on the regular internet. Things like following people around and taking pictures of them were pretty common. When people didn't have the money to pay a private investigator, they could find someone like me willing to do it on the cheap through the dark web. But I didn't have high hopes for this site. Selling your nightmares sounded like a load of bullshit. So I took my time reading the site. I was curious, at least. And as I spent 20 minutes perusing the claims of the site, I saw that they were at least pretending to be serious. They said you could wear a special pair of contact lenses to bed, and if you had a nightmare, the lenses would work with a small base plugged into your computer to record and interpret the signals coming from your brain during the nightmare. It would essentially turn them into a virtual reality video that other people could experience for themselves, like going to a horror movie, but weirder and more immersive. Apparently, there was a market for this kind of thing. After spending a good amount of time exploring the dark web, I wasn't surprised. There was a market for every little weird thing you could think of. When I read the fine print on the website, I saw that they would pay you $50 per nightmare, but they would take 10% off the top for the cost of the contacts and the base that they would send you for free. If you didn't use the thing, you'd have to send the equipment back or pay for it out of pocket. I thought it was interesting that they wouldn't make you pay for it up front, and I could make $45 while I slept every night. I figured it would be worth it. So I said screw it and signed up. Half expecting nothing to come of it, I pretty much forgot about it until a week later, when a package arrived in the mail. I unpacked the thing and read the directions included. The contacts came in individual plastic cases, very similar to real contacts, but I could just barely see the computer chip things inside them. The base was like a large thumb drive with a single antenna. All you had to do was plug it into your computer and download the accompanying software. Then you had to leave your computer on overnight. I was hesitant at first to use it, but then I took a look at my bank balance and changed my mind. The money would be a big help. So I set everything up, and when I was ready for bed, I took my regular contacts out and put the nightmare ones in, and I went to sleep. I don't know if it was the power of suggestion or if there was something about the technology that encouraged nightmares, but I had a terrifying one that night. I was a kid, lying in my childhood bedroom, when my mom and dad came in. At first, I thought they were going to tuck me in for bed, but when they got closer, their eyes were too big and completely black, and their mouths were full of jagged teeth. They attacked me and started ripping me apart, eating me alive. I awoke abruptly when my mom chomped down on my face. My heart was thudding and I was drenched in sweat. But after I moved to the other side of the bed, I was able to get back to sleep. The next day, I got a notice that $45 had been deposited into my crypto wallet. That was all I needed to see. For the next few weeks, I wore the contacts to bed and had nightmares every night. They grew more and more vivid and seemed to last longer and longer, although it's nearly impossible to tell time when you're dreaming. One night, I even realized I was asleep and dreaming. I guess that's known as a lucid dream. I was able to take control of the nightmare, and when that happened, I started flying around and having a good time. I knew nothing could hurt me because I was dreaming. The next day, I still got paid for that nightmare, even though I'd made it not a nightmare after a few minutes. So when I went to bed the night after that, I was hoping something similar would happen again. The nightmare that came to me was like nothing I'd experienced before. I was preparing dinner, chopping vegetables, when I cut open a bell pepper. Instead of the little seeds, hundreds of slithery black bugs poured out. They rushed to the hand holding the bell pepper and quickly crawled under my fingernails, burrowing into the soft skin there. I knew that if I let them get to my heart, that would be it. I would die. So I took the knife I was holding and slammed it down, cutting all 4 fingers off my left hand. Blood poured out of the wounds, and I let out a pained scream. But in that moment, I knew it was a dream. Still, that didn't make the pain go away. It was pulsing and crisp, just like real pain. And weirder still, I couldn't manage control of my screaming. Even though I felt calm, I could hear myself screaming. I could feel my vocal cords thrumming as I did. Suddenly, those tiny black creatures moved out of my severed fingers and swarmed through the air, diving into the bleeding nubs on my hand. I slammed my hand down and hacked at the wrist, knowing I would wake up with both hands, not a scratch on me. With my entire left hand off, I tossed the knife down and walked to my front door. Someone was banging on it, and I wanted to see who it was. When I opened the door, I found 2 of my neighbors, Jerry and Nicole, standing there. "Shh," Jerry said. "What happened?" Suddenly, I was feeling very lightheaded. "It's okay," I said. "It's just a dream." Jerry and Nicole looked at each other. I smiled, then stumbled back from the doorway, falling down and hitting my head on the floor. The last thing I saw before losing consciousness was Jerry and Nicole rushing toward me. That was the last time I used the nightmare equipment. It was also the last time I had both my hands. The service was called Living Nightmares. One of my friends had turned me onto it a couple of weeks before. We'd both been into dark web stuff for a while, trying to one-up each other with the weird sites we could find. Most of them were just creepy or run-of-the-mill criminal enterprises. But Living Nightmares was something altogether different. You could purchase another person's nightmare and watch it as if it were a movie. Although watch wasn't really the right word. Experience was closer. Because you had to have this special headset to get the nightmare to play in your head. The first time I tried it, shortly after my parents had gone to bed one night, it really freaked me out. It was like seeing a horror movie for the first time as a child. The fear was pure, palpable, and visceral. Honestly, if it hadn't freaked me out so bad, I probably would have dropped it. But I came back to it again and again, addicted to the fear and the weirdness of glimpsing into other people's heads. Of course, you didn't know who these people were. The whole thing was random. There was just a 1 or 2 sentence description under each nightmare thumbnail on the site. And if the person having the nightmare looked into a mirror or something, the program that edited the nightmares would blur them out or change their face. Besides, people rarely resemble themselves exactly in their dreams. They saw more of an idea of who they were. Anyway, I got to where I'd watch a nightmare every night as soon as my parents went to bed. But there was a stretch where the service was down for a few days, so I couldn't watch. Apparently, some guy had chopped off his own hand because he thought he was in a nightmare, but he was really sleepwalking or something. The Living Nightmare forum blew up with the news, and the service had to change sites. But I didn't think there was any threat. After all, I wasn't selling nightmares. I was buying them from other people. Besides, the people running the site insisted that the guy had misused their equipment. I was convinced. But then something strange happened. I picked a nightmare at random and sat back in my computer chair, eyes closed and headset on. The nightmare rushed at me, pulling me into a large and drafty house. The point of view character was stumbling down a hallway with a knife in his hand. He glimpsed behind him, seeing shadows dance across the hall, while screams and snarling erupted from all sides. There was something vaguely familiar about the house, but I couldn't put my finger on it. It was all twisted and distorted. Anyway, like things in nightmares often are. I thought maybe I'd experienced one of the person's nightmares before, and that's why it was familiar. "Gotta do it," the character said. It was a man's voice, and it was familiar too. "Gotta do it. Evil. He's evil. Gotta do it." The hallway transformed into a cave system, and the character kept mumbling as he ran, turning this way and that down passageways. Then he suddenly stopped at a door in the rock wall, a familiar door. My skin prickled as he opened the door with his free hand. He stepped into a dark bedroom, one I knew very well. It was my bedroom. Distorted by dreamland, I still recognized the horror movie posters on the walls and the layout of the bed, desk, and dresser. And I also recognized the person sleeping in the bed. It was me, or at least the back of my head as I faced the wall, curled up in my purple blanket. "Gotta do it. He's evil. Gotta do it." The man moved slowly over to the bed and raised the knife above the sleeping teenager. And he jammed the knife down. I threw off the headset before I could see the results. I looked at my bedroom door, half convinced I would see it open, that I would see my dad walk in, knife in hand. But of course, I didn't. It was only a dream, a nightmare. It was strange that my father was selling his nightmares on the dark web. I knew things were tight, but I had no idea. I calmed myself down. Dreams were weird. There was no reading into them. We had no control over what our minds did when we sleep. Did we? I got ready for bed, taking a moment to stare at my parents' closed bedroom door before heading back to my room. I locked the door before shutting off the light and getting into bed. Sleep didn't come fast, but it came. Only it didn't last very long, because I woke up in the middle of the night with the sense that someone was in my room. I was facing the wall. I didn't dare turn around. And then I heard the words, "Gotta do it. He's evil. Gotta do it." Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and smash that like button to get notified every time I upload a new video.